The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Everybody, that's right, it is Thursday, September 11th, better known as 9/11. And today is National School Picture Day today, you guys.
I'm ready.
You're looking very photogenic, bro. That's great. Your hair almost looks as good as mine, Stone.
Oh, let me see. Oh, look at your hair, Jason. Look at that hair.
Yeah. It's also National Hot Cross Bun Day.
Ooh.
This is not for tan lines on chicks in Miami, Dale. Okay, this is bread. This is actual bread.
Blowing my image. I had this great image.
I know.
This morning.
I had the same image in my mind when I first read it.
Okay.
It's also National Make Your Bed Day.
Oh,
I make my bed every day. Do you guys make your bed? Are you guys
I'm not off to a
sloppy?
good start on that one. No.
You
I was going to say I do almost every day, but not today for some reason, which seems truthfully
not since boot camp. Fuck that.
Nice. It's also Patriot
I don't pull my
Day.
underwear either. Fuck that.
I feel you. I feel you on that. It's also Patriot Day today.
There you go.
Yeah. National Day of Service and Remembrance, also better known as 9/11. And we have a big birthday today because today is it's Jesus's birthday today, you guys.
What?
Mm-hmm. You didn't know
knew
that?
it.
You didn't know that?
You got
Stone?
some explaining to do. Tell me.
I'm more than happy to explain. We'll probably do. You know, we're doing a special 9/11 video that's going to get released later today. So maybe we'll do one on why 9/11 is actually Jesus's birthday, even though we celebrate it on Christmas Day. Maybe we just will do that for you, Stone.
Sounds like more than a microdose this morning, huh, Stone?
No.
Let me find some mushrooms and let me dig in for the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we do we do want to observe a brief moment of silence this morning for the loss of my friend Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated yesterday in Utah, as well as for all of the servicemen and women, as well as other Americans that lost their lives 24 years ago on 9/11 today. And so we're going to have a brief moment of silence in all of their memory. And now we are going to get into the news. And I don't see Jenny Beth. So maybe she said she had a meeting and she was going to come and do her first story, but and then she was going to have to come back. But seeing as how she's not here, I guess I'm just going to have to read her story for you guys. So
And now we have the highest Republican in the land.
Thank you so much, Dale. Thank you so much. Because, man, and I really wanted a female to cover this story because I feel like this is a female-based story, but whatever, you know what I mean? Because a study links marijuana use during IVF to higher risk of abnormal embryos, you guys. You believe that, Stone? Marijuana's active ingredient was linked to higher rates of cross-monal abnormality in early embryos, according to new research, potentially providing new insight into the link between cannabis use and female fertility. The new paper, published in Tuesday in Nature Communications, showed that the presence of THC was associated with lower rates of embryos that contain the correct number of chromosomes. Separately, exposing immature egg cells to THC disrupted their ability to sort chromosomes. The paper was based on 2 studies, both conducted by the same research team in Toronto, and the first lab, a lab study, exposed Oocytes, OOCYTES, or immature human egg cells to THC and measured their cross-modal development. The second, a retrospective study that used real-world data from patients undergoing IVF treatment, compared outcomes between those whose follicular fluid tested positive or negative for THC. Both studies' results pointed in the same direction, said the paper's lead author, Cynthia Duval, a researcher affiliated with the University of Toronto, and the CREATE research program, the scientific arm of a Toronto fertility clinic. In a quote, they say, "I think that the biggest strength of this paper, that we would use 2 studies to answer the same question," Duval said. "The main conclusion would be that THC induced cross-monial segregation errors in both oocytes and embryos." With marijuana now legal in Canada and much of the United States and overall use rates climbing steadily, some public health experts have warned that rising cannabis use could yield unintended consequences. Many previous studies have found that marijuana use can negatively affect male fertility. Little is known, however, about the impact of cannabis use on female fertility, though. The findings align with the broad understanding about links between substance use and reproductive health, and said Jamie Lowe, an associate professor of obstetrics and gynecology at Oregon Health and Science University, who is not involved in conducting the research. In a quote, she says, "This is consistent with what we know about other substances, including cannabis, and what we know about cannabis in pregnancy, as well as cannabis in male fertility and male reproductive health," she said. "That exposure, especially to higher levels of cannabis, or specifically THC, can be associated with worsening fertility, increased reproductive complications, and potentially increased adverse outcomes for pregnancy." In the lab study, THC exposure led to a 9% increase in rates of aneuploidy, ANEUPLOIDY, or an embryo containing an improper number of chromosomes, and more than double the rate of spindle abnormalities, which are crucial to segregating chromosomes during cell division. In the retrospective analysis, just 60% of embryos in the THC positive group had the proper number of chromosomes, compared to 67% in the THC negative group. Well, that's not that big of a drop, 7%. Duval cautioned, however, that the study was specific to patients undergoing IVF treatment who have been exposed to high levels of hormonal stimulation, meaning that the study's results may not be generalizable to the broader population. And moreover, she said, countless people who consume marijuana have successfully conceived, meaning the public should treat her study results as a data point, not as a red flag. Well, finally some truth in here. And it's not that cannabis will make you infertile, Duval said. "It's just to bring a little bit more caution around that, but I don't want any type of fear-mongering." Here we go. While Lowe, a physician researcher, was also nuanced in her interpretation of Duval's findings, she said she already counsels patients trying to conceive to avoid cannabis. And in a quote, she says, it's important that patients try to abstain from cannabis when trying to conceive. But for those that cannot, this still offers an opportunity for harm reduction by reducing the amount they're using to mitigate adverse outcomes to themselves and their fertility, their reproductive health, and their babies, Lowe said. Limitations of the vitro study include the inability to stratify the oocytes by patient eggs, and even though age is an important factor in the cell's ability to mature in a lab setting, the retrospective study was also limited by a lack of data about specific substance use behaviors, including the presence of other substances and the frequency of dosing of cannabis use among those whose folicular fluid contained THC. But still, the two studies break new ground in measuring the impact of cannabis on reproductive health, and numerous previous studies had shown marijuana use, generally heavy use, and the presence of THC had a negative effect on male reproductive endpoints like sperm count and the concentration, and on outcomes for women who use cannabis while pregnant. And in a quote, "I remember this project started in my head in 2018 when the Canadian government legalized the use of adult use cannabis in Canada," Duval said. "I was surprised to see the amount of data on male fertility on pregnancy, but this big gap of knowledge in female fertility, and that's what this study aimed to answer." Well, you guys. I'm not too sure that from 60% to 67% is that big of a drop and much cause for concern, because you're still way over the 50% threshold. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this woman's story. And Jenny Beth was supposed to be here to cover this today, so sorry. I tried to have a woman cover it, so don't get mad. Don't shoot the messenger.
I appreciate you bringing in Cartman to do the woman's voice. That was awesome.
Hey, anytime, bro. Anytime.
I wouldn't put a lot of stock in this study, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in vitro. They pump women full of hormones to get them to produce multiple eggs, and then in a petri dish subject them to THC.
Yeah.
And watch what it does. Well,
yep.
Okay. Our predecessors weren't stupid.
Mm-hmm.
If people smoking a lot of weed were producing kids with 3 eyes and 4 legs, they would have thought, maybe we should not do this shit, because we can make the connection here. But if you're going into IVF and you think you're going to be drinking and smoking and,
right,
and doing lines of coke and all that kind of stuff, the answer is you're fucking wasting your money. You're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Stop everything. Okay. So a lot of this stuff, I mean, the truth about it being a data point, that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? And the term is follicular, and it's oocytes. They are the female eggs. But you weren't trained in medicine, so we'll move beyond that.
I wasn't.
This should get people to try to put together specific studies to see if this really means anything. But they do all these tests in what they call in vitro, in a petri dish. And I really don't give a shit what happens in a petri dish. I care what happens when you put it into your system, you consume it, and your liver acts upon it and things like that. What does that molecule do inside the body? Because that's the real-time experience we're looking for. And a lot of this is just unethical to do. And you get some little data point here, and all of a sudden, oh my God, if you smoke weed, you're never going to be able to have a child. Yeah, you, man. I mean, a lot of people that met someone at a bar, the next thing you know, you're in the backseat of the car, and the next thing you know, she's pregnant. It's like, holy shit.
Well, at the same time,
when I sober up, you're kind of ugly. How the fuck was I looking?
Hey, I mean, it happens. It definitely happens. At the same time, Dale, I mean, people, I think, should look at all the women in Jamaica that use cannabis throughout their whole entire lifespan that have never had any problem with fertility at all whatsoever. So I think a lot of this is a lot of hodgepodge. And, if your number goes from 67 to 60%, I mean, you're still way over the 50% marker, and technically all you need is one egg and all you need is one little spermie to make a baby. So you know what I'm saying, that's still, your odds are really high up there.
Well, Melanie Dreyer, who's got a PhD in nursing, went to Jamaica and studied in real time.
Yeah.
And the women there smoke like choo-choo trains. Okay. And so they followed them in utero, and then they do their markers afterwards, the 1, 3, 5 year markers. Every kid met their marker. Okay. So if you're looking for empirical evidence, this causes, problems in the children born from this. Where's the evidence?
Yeah.
So, we're afraid it's going to. Oh, this has got the same molecules when you burn it that you have in tobacco smoke. Yeah, but it doesn't cause cancer. So when you look at the practical here, the fear-mongering just goes on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anybody should use anything. I don't advocate you smoke weed, drink alcohol, snort coke, anything. I don't advocate that. If you do that, which a lot of us have, let's not be stupid, but this stuff is fear mongering, and it's not scientific. I'm sorry.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Dale. I'm with you. Any other comments before we move into commercial, you guys? All right, fair enough.
I agree. I don't think IVF patients under heavy hormone stimulation may not represent the general population. So again, I agree with everything you guys said.
Well, not to mention, they're also Canadians and they're using Canadian weed. Stone. Just saying. Oh, and we are back, you guys. Well, I have. I'm gonna
coming up next. The highest Republican.
Oh, that's good, Stone. That's good. That's good. Look at this, you guys. And I apologize. This is a little bit of a longer story, but it's a super interesting one, Dale. I can't wait to hear your stuff because this is total legal mumbo jumbo going on. But in Variscite ruling, the Dormant Commerce Clause comes for New York's in-state conviction preference for cannabis licenses. That's right. New York's adult use licensing scheme has experienced numerous challenges, both operationally and in court. And last month, the Second U.S. Court of Appeals added violations to the Dormant Commerce Clause and the DCC to that list. In Variscite New York 4 LLC versus New York State Cannabis Control Board, it held that the DCC, a constitutional doctrine prohibiting states from privileging their own citizens, applies to the adult use cannabis market, thus prohibiting New York from privileging its own residents when awarding licenses to cannabis businesses. The decision follows the first U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals prior decision in Northeast Patients Group versus United Cannabis Patients and Caregivers of Maine, and which struck down Maine's residency requirement for officers and directors of medical marijuana dispensaries under the DCC. In Variscite, a split panel held that New York's adult use cannabis licensing regime violates the DCC by prioritizing the review of applications for retail cannabis licenses submitted by applicants with a past New York marijuana conviction or those who have a close relative with such a conviction over the applications of similarly situated applicants with out-of-state convictions, finding it fair to assume that most New York marijuana offenders are now New Yorkers. The court concluded this system is a protectionist measure that unconstitutionally favors in-state applicants over others. Although not surprising in light of Northeast Patients Group, the Variscite decision underscores a growing judicial consensus that the DCC constrains state cannabis regulations to the same extent as any other industry, possibly sending regulators back to the drawing board. New York's licensing framework since legalized adult use cannabis back in 2021, and New York has instituted 2 separate application programs for retail cannabis dispensary license. First, from August through September of 2022, New York regulators accepted applications under the Conditional Adult Use Retail Dispensary, better known as the CURD application program, which required qualifying applicants to have a significant presence in or be a resident of the state. CURD's New York presence of residency requirement has been challenged in at least 2 separate litigations, both of which resulted in preliminary injunctions restraining the program. And you can see Versatile New York 1 Incorporated versus New York 640F Supply, and goes on and on. But seemingly chastened in September of 2023, New York adopted regulations for a new application program that would be open to both New York and out-of-staters. The Adult Use Application Program, this program divided applicants into 2 pools, a November pool and a December pool, with separate number of licenses available in each. The November pool was open to applicants who could demonstrate proof of control over a retail location prior to November 17th, 2023, when the pool closed, and all other applicants were part of the December pool. So far, so good. To determine the order of review for the limited number of licenses available, regulators randomly assigned applicant positions in the review queues for each pool. The adult use program gave certain applications extra priority if an applicant or its majority owner is a member of a community disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition. B, has an income lower than 80% of the median income of the county in which the applicant resides, and C, was convicted of a marijuana-related offense under New York law or has a close relative with such a conviction. Applicants who met these criteria were assigned 3 random positions in the review queues, effectively giving them triple the chance at an early slot. This is where the new program ran afoul of the DCC. The second court's decision, the versatile plaintiffs filed suit on December 18th of 2023, and in the Northern District of New York, alleging the adult use program preferences New Yorkers in violation of the DCC. 3 days later, plaintiffs moved for a preliminary injunction stopping New York from issuing adult use licenses and additional CURD licenses. The district court denied plaintiffs' motion, finding that the DCC did not apply in this context because cannabis is federally illegal. And this finding was squarely rejected on appeal. And while cannabis is listed as a Schedule I controlled substance under the Controlled Substances Act, the court emphasized that Congress had not clearly authorized states to enact protectionist licensing schemes. In other words, state-level legalization does not give states carte blanche to discriminate against non-residents in awarding cannabis licenses. The court found that conducting licensing preference on New York-specific convictions was a proxy for favoring New Yorkers because most individuals with New York marijuana convictions were residents of the state when convicted. Thus, the adult use program's extra priority scheme effectively excluded out-of-state offenders with similar histories. This amounted to facial discrimination under the DCC, triggering strict scrutiny, which New York could not survive. The Second Circuit vacated the district's court of denial of a preliminary injunction and remanded, and holding the plaintiffs were likely to succeed on their DCC claim regarding the adult use program's extra priority rule. But there's some key takeaways for the cannabis industry because the Second Circuit's decision underscores a growing judicial consensus that the DCC constrains state cannabis regulations to the same extent as in other industries unless Congress unmistakably authorizes protectionism. The decision is almost certain to have a significant impact on the industry moving forward, and many states, including Washington, California, Maryland, and Rhode Island, have adopted licensing schemes that prioritize local residents or those with local cannabis convictions, rendering them vulnerable to challenges based on Variscite. But states may need to restructure social equity programs to focus on geography-neutral measures, such as income levels and past cannabis convictions, regardless of jurisdiction. But New York has been a case study in how private litigants can derail a regulatory agenda that seek to achieve the regulator's view of social equity without sufficiently considering the legal implications. Other equity-focused licensing systems are now ripe targets for lawsuits, and plaintiffs in states such as Maine and Missouri have already challenged residency rules with some success, and moreover, similar appeals are currently pending in the First and Ninth Circuits. And you can see Jensen versus Rhode Island Cannabis Control Commission just as an example. However, on September 2nd, the Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against a California resident who argued that the social equity requirement for Maryland's retail cannabis market discriminates against out-of-state residents by favoring applicants who have attended a 4-year university in Maryland for at least 2 years, where at least 40% of the students are eligible for Pell Grants. The 3-judge panel found this requirement to be non-discriminatory and reasoning that attendance at a qualifying university does not require Maryland residency. And you can see Jensen versus Maryland Cannabis Administration to find out more about that. But Variscite provides a powerful new precedent in the influential Second Circuit because states should anticipate and prepare for increased litigation, especially if other circuit courts follow the First and Second Court's lead. You guys, wow. Dale, sounds like you may be having some work on your plate. I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say about this.
Well, we've talked about the Dormant Commerce Clause before, and the Constitution specifically grants power to the central government to oversee interstate commerce. Okay? So if the federal government takes action, it can outline whatever it wants to with respect to special rules inside states, or allow them to, if they oversee the entire interstate commerce of this, which we don't have right now. I think that's one of the problems Clarence Thomas is talking about, is that at one point you may have been able to argue there was a uniform set of laws for cannabis in the United States. The federal level, it's not anymore. It's tolerated. That sort of fell apart. The other thing in here is that if you adopt a law that on its face is violative of the Constitution, then strict scrutiny is what they apply to it, which means it's got to be necessary in order to achieve a fundamental state interest, okay? And the state typically loses that because they can't make that argument with a straight face. Here, on the face of the statute, it said that you've got to have a New York cannabis conviction. Well, prior to the Constitution in the Articles of Confederation era, each state set up import and export prohibitions that just were not workable. So that's why that power was given to the federal government. If the federal government doesn't take action, no state can set up barriers. And that's what the Dormant Commerce Clause is. If you put up a barrier to someone coming in your state, get involved in commerce, it's unconstitutional. And that's what the specific requirement of a New York conviction is. You know, you can have a California conviction, but you don't apply. Now, if they say, hey, if you have a cannabis conviction in any jurisdiction, that's probably going to be okay. But this is still to be worked out, because I think most of the courts are looking at this, and with a straight face, it's hard to allow the government to have the schizophrenic approaches they're having to all this without somebody saying something that this just doesn't make any sense. This is stupid. It violates so many levels of Supreme Court precedent. Somebody's got to say, just stop and let's try to fix this. But, you know, we've been talking about the federal government trying to do something. They can't find their ass with both hands right now. The states are fucking this up too. So, you know, maybe the courts will have to step in. I hope they step in and stop this nonsense.
I think the courts are the only thing that can stop all of this in all reality. That, you know, any thoughts on this, Stone? I mean, you should be able to apply for social equity, Stone.
I should be able to.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with my camera. Sorry, I was fucking with the blur.
Yeah.
You know, if states really want these programs to hold up, they're going to have to focus on like neutral measures, like income and prior convictions anywhere, not just inside their own borders. That's.
You know, that brings up a point. I mean, does that mean that someone from Europe who was arrested, you know what I'm saying, in Italy for cannabis would be able to qualify for social equity too in the U.S.?
It should apply to our laws. I mean, our country.
You think it's so you do believe in that border?
That border.
Okay, all right.
Come on. But come on, if the drug laws in this country affected you in some way, no matter what state you're in, but it should apply for social equity.
Well, Stone, I think everyone can make the argument on an international level that America sets the stage as far as what drugs are allowed on an international level. So technically, they were affected because of the United States policy.
All right.
Yeah.
I can see your argument there. Sir.
You can see it makes sense, right? I'm not, you know, I'm just saying.
I'm not used to Jason making that many good points in a row.
But if they bring that up, I guarantee they're getting deported.
I'm just
with the
stop it, Stone. They're not getting deported. Stop it, bro.
Okay.
Well, at least as long as they're here legally.
You're going to get a visa to come to America to engage in something that's federally illegal. Yeah, I just think that stretches credulity quite a bit.
I'm just saying how these decisions are coming out. It sounds like that is a possibility, Dale. That's all that I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Any final thoughts on this, Nate, before we move on?
No, it's not really my wheelhouse. It's interesting listening to, I mean, both you and Dale and Two Stone as your defended points count. Everything is really interesting. Honestly, my perspective as sort of just a bystander in a lot of this is it's complicating an already complicated system rather than figuring out ways to make it work. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that's not how shit's supposed to work. So, that's my brief moment of discourse. So yeah, that's yeah.
I'm just telling you, at the next meeting, I'm sure you're going to see someone protesting, saying that saying something about this. It's going to end up becoming a talking point. I could see it happening already. But nonetheless, we're going to roll into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. And Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet, they're nasty, they turn your teeth yellow on top of other things too. But he is honest, and he is unconcerned with your opinion, public opinions, and everyone else's opinion for that matter. And he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right, is your favorite Tio Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My story this morning comes out of MJ Biz Daily. It's about the track and trace system in New York, which doesn't exist and looks like it's going to be a mess like California. And it's from MJ Biz Daily staff. It was updated yesterday. Apparently first came out on the 8th. So this is an ongoing saga of trying to track cannabis. And there was a merger between BioTrack and Metric. And the New York Cannabis Control Board had signed a contract with BioTrack, provide the software to track. And if I understand right, that contract was for $1.3 million per year. And California pays Metric like $26 million a year, and it's still a fucked up system here in California. Oh, anyway, they were supposed to go live several times now with BioTrack. Then this merger came. Now they're telling people, well, we're not going to be able to go live until early 2026. Okay. Well, I'd rather see them delay it and get it right than just start it and screw it all up. But they're going to delay it and still screw it up because that's the nature of this system of track and trace. And for those of you who haven't been following the practical realities in the industry, out here in California, we have Metric. What happens practically is someone buys a dirt cheap distro, they move thousands of pounds of weed into it. No one ever checks. It ends up on shelves in New York. Then they dump the distro. We call them burner distros. We pay $26 million a year for Metric to follow this, and Forrest Gump can get around it. It's just unbelievable watching what goes on here. Because, I talk to people in real time, and a lot of this is attorney-client stuff, so I can't tell you all the people tell me, but it's a clear understanding. If someone is dumping a distro, you can buy it, you can load it up full of weed, no one comes to check. The next thing you know, you ship it out of state, everybody disappears, and that distro then either goes away or someone sells to somebody else. It's the burner distro problem we have here in California. New York hasn't had track and trace. So what we have is inversion and diversion as a huge problem. But I guess problem is if you're looking at this from the regulated market standpoint. If you're looking at it from pure commerce, California produces a lot of weed, people want it. It ends up in places where people want it, like New York. Got a track and trace system. Go look on the shelves and, oh my God, it's Humboldt weed. How could that have happened? Well, because the system doesn't work. And, I don't want to slander BioTrack or Metric, but out here in California, we're looking at this thing and it's like, this is not working. Okay? And before we even went live, I met with the head of our Department of Consumer Affairs, and they were working on their own internal computer system to try and track Metric computer system because they knew the history of government getting a computer system is they screw it up every time. So you've got to have these layers to try and track it. Right now, tons of weed is being diverted out of California. Metric doesn't seem to be able to do much about that. I'm not real hopeful that when New York goes live with Metric software next year, they're going to do anything other than screw it up like California has. I'm going to throw us back at it because this is one of those situations that I don't think we should be tracking this stuff like we are. It should be, I mean, no one tracks a bottle of beer or, you know, a bottle of Jim Beam. It just doesn't happen. Why in the hell are we doing this? Okay, I think that's my fundamental position here. But if you're going to do it, for God's sakes, can you not fuck it up? Because the government, that's their mantra. You ask them to build you a horse, what they deliver is a fucking giraffe. Oh, I'm going to throw it back at you. What do you guys think about this?
This is, you are so right about this. I mean, New York, I mean, there's no point to even doing a track and trace in New York because most of the people are shopping at all of these liquor stores and there's no track and trace or anything there. So what's even the point of installing it? You know, half of the stores that are open right now, they're saying are going to have to close down because they're going to have to move. I mean, New York is just like, you guys cannot get this right at all whatsoever. And I totally agree with you, Dale. The whole metric system as far as track and trace is totally ridiculous. And all it does is cost people money and keeps the price of cannabis artificially higher than what it should be, because of all the labor intensiveness that you have to deal with compliance, and then it leads to way more government overreach for these people to be issuing these businesses fines and over regulate on them to threaten them with different fines, penalties, and even the possibility of revocation. And so this is total bullshit.
Also, there's always a workaround. You know, if you consider how this stuff works, you know, especially in our culture, people will always find that path of least resistance. Most, you know, will. And most of the time, if you're creating these dimensions and layers of what accounts to how we describe it, which essentially all amounts to government overreach, you find people utilizing this path of least resistance type of approach. And they end up doing things kind of like what Dale was suggesting, where they divert through those, we call them dummy distros, but same idea. And the idea that you can utilize a corner of the industry that's not being watched and siphon everything out of there, and that the guys in charge have to either face the reality that they built a broken system and have to admit that and ask for a lot of forgiveness for that, or they just do the cartoonish equivalent of whistling and walking away. And that's what this leads to. That's the problem. That's what we don't want to see anymore. And that's what we're ultimately being faced with in these kind of situations. It's people complicating shit they don't understand, utilizing approaches that weren't good to begin with. And rather than applying layers on layers on that, people need to be listening to others, kind of like, you know, what Dale has pitched out there, for large scale solutions that the entire industry needs to use. Otherwise, people are just going to keep finding that path of least resistance, and they're going to keep breaking systems. And then, you know, like, who's going to win, the system breakers or the system patchers? And it's not a sustainable system, is what we should be hearing.
Well, I like to remind people that 250 years ago, our founding fathers were smugglers.
Yep.
And you know, the king would say, "Oh, you got to pay this tariff." Yeah, fuck you. We're throwing your tea into the harbor. You know, John Hancock was the most notorious smuggler in the colonies. So that's our DNA. Okay. We are notorious non-rule followers here in this country. It's in our DNA. So if you tell people we're going to make 1 million rules for you to follow, I'm just telling you, I've met around the corner in the alley with these same guys. It's like, yeah, fuck this. We're going to find a way around it.
You know, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned about John Hancock being one of the biggest smugglers, because you know, when I was at Maine at the congressman's house, and we did a live broadcast from his backyard. That was actually his backyard back then, and that water basin that is in the back was his actual port, where they would bring in everything. You know what I'm saying, from Canada that they were bootlegging back then. So yeah, you're so right about that. And you know, I guess you know, metric is kind of like the digital bootleg, I guess, right?
Oh, but it's a fallacy about human nature.
Mm-hmm.
You can make up a bunch of rules and get people to follow them.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. The simpler the rules, the more you're going to get people to follow them.
Yep.
And that's one of the complaints I've had about my own party is that they over-regulate the shit out of everything.
Yeah.
Rather than making the rules as simple as you can. What is your purpose in putting the rules in place? Let's identify that. Let's keep checking back and making sure, are we meeting our goals? And let's be accountable, okay? But accountability doesn't work in the political system. No one holds them accountable except in elections. And now they've, both sides have gerrymandered elections. So, good luck with that. The whole thing just gives me nausea. I mean, really. It's stupid to think we can force people to do things they don't want to do because some knucklehead makes up a rule and expect people to follow it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way.
I'm so with you, Dale. I'm so with you. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months.
I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me.
We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
We are back, you guys. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And today we are going to be releasing our 9/11 special with my interview with Congressman Kurt Weldon, along with Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, all about 9/11. It's going to be about a 2-hour video, I think, by the time it's all done. We were hoping to be able to release it at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, but we're not going to make that time frame. But it is going to be posted up later on today. So I hope you guys all check it out, share it with everybody, enjoy it. It's a whole bunch of amazing information and all factual based. No, we're not trying to steer any narratives or paint any pictures or whatnot. We'll do that another time. But this is all just pure facts that are undisputable and that the congressman is 100% willing to take a polygraph on as well. And so I hope you guys check that out and enjoy it. And we'll be right back after this message.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
And we are back, you guys. And coming up next, that's right, it is our very own version of the Fonz, coming from the great city of Austin, Texas. That's right. The man who almost has hair as great as mine. It is none other than Stone Slade. And Stone, my question to you today is, if the Fonz was still alive, would he smoke Delta 8 too? That's right. It is none other than Mr. Stone Slade.
Jason, the Fonz is still alive. And like myself, I bet you he does not smoke Delta 8. But you, anyway, you will like the story, I think, today. The Trump administration is throwing another wrench into cannabis reform. The Department of Justice just announced it's canceling dozens of proposed rules, including 2 that directly impact marijuana and hemp. One rule was supposed to implement the bipartisan medical marijuana and cannabidiol, Research Expansion Act. That law, signed back in 2022, was meant to streamline cannabis research to let researchers and manufacturers apply through DEA's secure online portal. Congress wanted it easier for doctors and scientists to study cannabis. And now the Justice Department is saying, never mind. The other rule on the chopping block, analytical labs and hemp, would have waived registration requirements for lab testing hemp. This one's even messier. It carries the same identifier number that's been tied to hearings on rescheduling marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And Trump just told the country he'd be making a decision on rescheduling within weeks. So either the DOJ is pulling a bait and switch, or their filing system is a complete mess. So what's really happening here? DOJ claims this is part of a deregulatory initiative and reassessment of agency needs, priorities, and objectives. As bureaucrats speak for not sure what we're doing, but we're definitely not making it easier. The confusion's already fueling speculation. Lawmakers are asking how DOJ can back away from implementing a law Congress passed. Advocates are pointing out that this could stall badly needed cannabis research and lab testing standards. And mixed messages come at a very moment that the administration's under pressure to finally deliver something on rescheduling. Inside Trump's orbit, the voices are split. Ben Carson's out there warning that rescheduling will destroy the country. Sean Spicer and Roger Stone are taking opposite sides in public op-eds. And Mike Tyson, he's practically begging Trump to move cannabis to a Schedule 3, even rallying other athletes to sign letters and push the White House. Meanwhile, Kellyanne Conway has reportedly been one of the biggest champions of rescheduling inside Trump's circle. So which Trump shows up, the deal maker who listens to Tyson and Conway, or the culture warrior who nods along with Carson? We may find out in weeks, or it may drag out the fog of canceled rules and confusing notices. But one thing is clear, people are tired of waiting. Congress already passed laws to expand research. States are regulating cannabis better than the feds. And the public, regardless of party, is overwhelmingly ready for reform. If Trump thinks deregulation means ignoring what Americans already decided on, he may find himself out of step, not just with scientists and athletes, but voters too. I'm Stone Slade with the High at 9 News.
Wow, Stone. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Man, maybe hopefully we won't have to go to Schedule 3.
That would be nice.
That would be great. That would be great. I mean, you know, I'm sure probably Dr. Mark is going to have something to say about this on tomorrow's episode, because his lab was going to be a beneficiary of some of those funds for research. So that'll be interesting to see if his funds are affected or will be affected because of this. That will be very interesting to follow up on. But I'm still hopefully optimistic that you know, did you say Spicer?
Yeah,
Sean Spicer. You know, I know Sean, and I remember being at one of his events, and he had this like big signing boards, and I remember signing it, telling him, you know what I'm saying, keep it spicy, Sean, and just remember, spice is also a strain of weed. on this board, and totally trolling him on that. And Sean is actually a pretty good guy overall, so I'm not exactly sure what's got him all worked up. Maybe he got some money from Kevin Sabet, and that's why he's taking that stand.
No. It said that Sean Spicer and Roger Stone were both on the pro side.
Oh, okay, perfect. Because I was gonna say, because all the conversations I've had with him, he was like, it doesn't make sense. I thought your interpretation or what the article stated was that they were on opposite sides, because I've seen that
Ben Carson's the anti, Sean Spicer, Roger Stone. On the other side, and Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah. Well, Kellyanne Conway, I've had a number of conversations with her over the years too, so I'm not surprised that she's on that page as well. And hopefully, I think sounder minds will prevail. You know what I mean? After all, the president did vote for Amendment 3 in Florida, and he doesn't believe that people should be incarcerated unjustly just for cannabis. And so we do have him on that. So I'm hopefully optimistic that something good will still happen of this. And also too, maybe this is happening because, we might be experiencing a change at the DOJ possibly. Because I don't see how Pam Bondi is going to be able to keep her job, with this whole Epstein files. And so I think there is a possibility that she could end up getting fired over this whole Epstein debacle and whatnot. And she was so close to that, while she was in Florida. And maybe one of my buddies will end up getting that seat. Who knows? You never know.
We can hope.
You see what I did there? Stone?
That was good.
Hope you're able to follow the breadcrumbs on that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not particularly hopeful the federal government's going to figure any of this shit out, because there's just way too much politics involved. And after yesterday's assassination, I think we all have to kind of take a step back and just make sure that what we're trying to do is factually based, and that we've got support for it, and not just, trying to be vitriolic and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are in a very difficult place right now in this country. And I've lived through this before in the 1960s and early 70s. And the government right now is fighting itself so badly, it's with such vitriol, that I'm not hopeful we're going to get a lot out of it. And when people start shooting prominent members of the other side, the knee-jerk reaction for that, I'm just not sure is going to be helpful for any of us. I don't like to see it, but if you don't call it what it is, that this is a dysfunctional Congress right now, and courts may have to step in to fix this, because I don't see, this needs to go back to Congress like immigration. It needs to sit down, bring in some pizza, shut the fucking door, and let's figure out a comprehensive plan to fix this. But you can peel it off and fight about it from your political vantage point, get points. That doesn't fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I see. The Congress, there are too many people fighting the other side and not looking at the average American, Mary and Joe Dokes, going, how can we make your life easier?
Mm-hmm.
No one seems to be having that discussion, fight about what I consider to be some stupid shit. And then people start killing each other, and it's like, oh, dude, 250 years about we've survived. Can't let knuckleheads take us to a place where this whole thing's in jeopardy. Because we have a shitty form of government, except for every other one out there on the planet, and ours works pretty well. So let's try to keep that in mind.
I agree with you, Stone. America is still the greatest country in the world, and everybody wants to hate on it as much as they do. I encourage them to go find a better place to live.
Won't exist.
Exactly. Only in their imagination does it exist. Well,
you can rent a house in Doha. Maybe the Israelis will drop a rocket on you. Huh?
Oh man, you know what? Doha is actually mentioned in our 9/11 video, and I hope make sure. Man, there's a. Oh man, I didn't even know where Doha was before this whole 9/11 debacle.
You do now,
Dale. Yeah, you're definitely gonna know now. Now, Dale, you mentioned about the assassination, and I'm a little confused because someone just sent me a picture. And it's of a book that's available for sale right now on Amazon, and you're never going to believe what the title is.
Okay.
The Shooting of Charlie Kirk, a comprehensive account of the Utah aftermath and America's response. And the author of this is a woman by the name of Anastasia J. Casey. And it says that it's available for sale right now on Amazon. How crazy is that?
That was fast.
Well, if it's real,
that's like South Park fast. That's insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane. That's insane. This is getting a little creepy.
Was she the shooter? I don't know. I don't want to accuse anybody, but like that's quick.
I've gotten some other texts in regards with who the actual shooter was, but I'm not going to share or speculate until there's any type of definitives, because otherwise it's just chasing up rabbits. I went on that yesterday, and to me it's just more of the government's game. Is like, oh, now we got the shooter, oh, now we don't, oh, now we got the shooter, oh, now we don't, now we got the shooter, now we don't. It's just more of the same. And even if they do say who the shooter is, it's a possibility that we still may never know who the real shooter was at the same time too, because it's just how our government tries to play us. And you know what I'm saying, and you'll see more of that in our 9/11 special that's released later on today. But nonetheless,
did you see the lady, the eyewitness on the first person they apprehended?
Oh yeah,
she was like, he said he would do it again. It wasn't even the guy. Like, he made that up.
It's so weird that whole part. And and he's walking. He's in handcuffed, getting carried. And he's like, oh, just shoot me. And you know what I mean? It's like so weird. But that guy was a confirmed nut job. Like, there was already prior cases of him. He emailed the city government asking if he could put bombs at the end of a marathon out there in Salt Lake City. Yeah, this is all documented stuff, Stone. So like that guy was a total nut job too, and there was plenty of nut jobs out there. But still, at the end of the day, over 200 yards, a shot like that's a sniper. That was a trained assassin. That was not your average purple-haired crazy wackadoodle. But nonetheless, enough on that. We're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, and I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where am I even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
We are back. We are going to roll right into Mr. Nate Winokur. Nate is the founder of a lab that was unjustly persecuted by the DCC and is now focusing on making content called Teaching Bud, where he educates you and everyone else watching on all of the interesting factors that involve cannabis consumption, and the fake testing world out there. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Nate Winokur.
Thank you for the introduction, my friend. And today's story comes at you from Duke University School of Medicine, titled "Cannabis Use Complicates Anesthesia. Duke Review Warns." And so we're going to go into this. This is going to be a two-part story. One is going to be the actual article, which, so that we don't go too long, I'm going to summarize for you guys. And then I wrote a quick op-ed that kind of communicates my quick thoughts to deal with something like this. But as marijuana cannabis use grows more common, a Duke University School of Medicine medical review warns it can make surgeries and procedures riskier. So what we have is that the Duke University School of Medicine has this new report review that essentially suggests cannabis will complicate anesthesia and perioperative care during operation. Article says studies suggest cannabis users may require higher doses of propofol. sometimes in the 15 to 30% range, to achieve adequate sedation, which can raise the risk of under or over sedation and blood pressure instability. So propofol is the main chemical, the main drug that they use for sedation. Lead author Rubas Jaya, MD, urges routine pre-op screening about cannabis, since many patients do not disclose use, and recommends individualized dosing with closer hemodynamic monitoring. The piece also notes that while cannabis is legal in some form across much of the U.S., clinical protocols have not fully caught up, leaving anesthesiologists to manage cases with limited guidance. The review highlights several uncertainties that complicate decision-making. There's no clear consensus on how frequency or the timing of cannabis use, daily, weekly, or occasional, changes the propofol requirements, and there are no firm tapering guidelines before surgery. Mechanisms remain under study. Cannabinoids like THC and CBD may alter anesthetic responses, but evidence so far shows association rather than proven cause and effect. Because federal restrictions have slowed research, the authors call for better studies to establish best practices. Until then, they advocate a cautious case-by-case approach. Ask proactively about cannabis, but be prepared to adjust sedative doses and monitor cardiovascular status closely to keep patients safe. Now, where I agree with this, and I think that the Duke review is worth hearing, that screening for cannabis is sensible, and there's growing evidence that frequent users can require higher propofol doses. But the irony, in my opinion, and this is the first thing that came to mind as I read it, the irony is that we often treat cannabis as this mysterious variable, especially within healthcare, while anesthesia itself still only rests on partially mapped biology. Propofol works every day in operating rooms, yet its full mechanism remains still a moving target, centered on GABA A modulation with circuit-level effects that are still being clarified. Even basic features like its anti-anemic action are not fully explained. That does not make anesthesia unsafe. It simply means our certainty has edges, and those edges matter when we blame cannabis for every wrinkle in the operating room. So rather than stigmatize patients, let's tell the truth on both sides of the equation. Analysis suggests dose increases for cannabis users, but causality and mechanisms are not nailed down. Good practice should focus on disclosure, individualized dosing, and vigilant hemodynamic monitoring, with elective cases delayed if the patient recently used or appears intoxicated. The real takeaway is consistency. Ask about cannabis as part of a standard pre-op, follow existing perioperative guidance, and invest in research that connects the endocannabinoid system to anesthetic targets. I'm looking for us to treat patients as partners in safety, not as suspects. What do you guys think? It's the hypocrisy that gets me, but that's Nate with High at 9 News. And yeah, once more, what do you guys think?
Oh, man, Nate, they're always trying to scapegoat Nate. I don't understand why they do that. They always try to scapegoat, bro.
The default setting is demonization.
Yeah.
And it's this weird uphill battle that shouldn't exist. And even in things that when it comes down to like alcohol and alcohol damage on the system and alcohol addiction, even that, when you describe alcohol and its place in society, doesn't feel like an uphill battle. People are just as aware of it at this point as literally every listener here. I mean, this is not a surprise, I think, when you hear about it to anybody, that something's being demonized, but that there's more to the story. I mean, the story of our lives in terms of our relationship with cannabis, right?
Well, but they teach this in hospitals. I mean, I've been in the operating room hundreds of times, and I've been in the meetings with residents about putting somebody under, how you keep them under. You learn the basics of this, and the anesthesiologist has every substance needed to advance something and to retract it. Okay, they understand the drugs like Narcan reverses some of these basic opioid systems uses that they get. And so they have available to them on their counter, they're already measured out. Basically every drug they know will raise or lower blood pressure, will wake you up more or put you under more. They use an artificial curare to paralyze you. All these things are used, and problem is that patients don't really trust their doctors enough to tell them everything they do. And that's for a number, especially with weed, because there's still a downside to weeds, and everybody's honest about it. And as far as I can tell, unless you're actively under the influence where you may have to have the anesthesiologist try to go around it with some of the drugs, most of this doesn't matter. I've been there where the anesthesiologists are talking to each other about how do you recognize somebody is coming out of anesthesia, needs to go under more. I mean, they know how to manage this stuff. And if you come in drunk, they're probably going to say, "You look, this is going to fuck up our." We used to use Versed and fentanyl were two that I was familiar with, and now propofol, Michael Jackson drug. Okay, we all understand that knocks you out, but they understand how to make you more sedated or less, how to monitor all the parts of your system, and that's what the anesthesiologist. And they did 5 fucking years of specialty training learn how to do this. And if you come in all fucked up, they'll go, "Okay, well maybe we can't do it today because this shouldn't happen." But it also should be part of specific research. You line them up, give somebody a shitload of THC or CBD, and then have them go through anesthesia and see what it does. And record it, specifically study it. Otherwise, shut the fuck up because you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's just scare tactics. Oh, if you do it when you're pregnant, you're what? What, a kid's going to have, 3 eyes? Show me where it's ever happened. Show me where it's ever happened. I might believe you. Otherwise, it's Am and Kevin Sabet screaming nonsense. Oh, there might be a possibility. Therefore, no, shut the fuck up.
So just from some personal experience on that, like I've been sedated, say going to the dentist and stuff like that. Usually it's local, but I know that, and I never put it together because I was a cannabis user. I know that I require a little bit more, that I felt pain and discomfort in other instances. And I've simply communicated that to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, that's good to know. Let me do some quick math and appropriately, responsibly adjust your dosage." And it was that difficult. So really what this highlights is making something like that normalized. And to make something like that normalized, again, default setting cannot be demonized.
Yeah.
And that maybe there's a better way to put it than that, but I see that as sort of being the root cause for all of these things. The reasons why people won't communicate oftentimes in the first place, and being able to identify pretty clearly what the benefits are if they were able to communicate that, and you remove the bullshit in between, right?
You're right about that, Nate, because I've experienced a similar situation, you know what I'm saying, at a dentist when they were doing some work on me and giving me some anesthesia or whatever, and you know what I mean. But you know what, Dale, I feel like anesthesiologists are kind of like the most stuck up doctors of all of the doctors. Like, I feel like they feel as though that their shit doesn't stink more than any other doctor in any other type of medical profession. And I don't understand why that is.
Well, I don't know if I share that, because I've represented some doctors that I'd like to drive off a cliff. I'm just saying that of all the anesthesiologists I've known, they've seemed to ride their high horse higher than any other doctor that I've ever met. That's just been from my personal experience.
I've known some good ones. I've known some really good ones. I wouldn't blanket the anesthesiologist.
Okay.
Dan Patrick's neighbor, who's a congressman here in the state, he is definitely one of those that you described. So perfect to a T.
All right. So I'm not wrong.
We had a guy here in Sacramento. His name was Majovsky.
Yeah.
Who's an anesthesiologist.
That's a great name. That's a great name for anesthesiologist right there, Dale. Majovsky.
Yeah. Well,
that's fantastic.
We called the hospital he worked at Oral Memorial because he used to intubate people with his penis.
Oh, I bet.
Putting them under anesthesia. That was a hard guy, but most anesthesiologists I've known, they're competent, capable people. They don't have the stress the surgeon has. I mean, when you start to die, everybody steps back and the anesthesiologist brings you back. It's just part of the game. But for the most part, it's a pretty laid back thing they do. Yeah. And that was what I've known a lot of. I've done drugs with a few anesthesiologists, and most of them are pretty laid back.
The question is, Dale, did they bring their tank along when you guys did the drugs?
Oh fuck, we've had some nitrous parties.
See,
Yes,
see,
indeed.
see, yeah, exactly.
So, serious question then, Dale.
Yeah.
Do you have any type of an answer for this? And I mean, you know cannabis, and you apparently know anesthesiologists. Have you ever had such discussions as would fringe on the article that was written over here that would help further contextualize what a responsible approach to anesthesia would be with cannabis? Is it anything beyond just simple pre-op meetings and communication, or is there anything else to it as well?
Well, I have, because I've been a pot smoker for a long time and been smoking pot with anesthesiologists. Talk to them about this. And for the most part, it's like, oh, I have a couple drinks a week or whatever. I don't take that seriously. If you're actively under the influence, they've got to make some corrections. So the trust factor is important, that they tell you what they've been doing, okay? And if you don't trust it, maybe you put off the anesthesia. But if they tell you what they've been doing and they seem to be a reasonable historian, anesthesiologists move forward because they have all the tools in front of them that they know will reverse anything that happens when they've got you under anesthesia. So it's not like, for them, it's not a big deal. It's like, I worked in the ER, people show up, oh, my kid ate a gummy. Go, okay, well, we're not going to, ring a fire alarm, the kid's going to sleep it off, and next time keep your fucking gummies out of there. But if they ate a bottle of Tylenol, we have a medical emergency.
Yeah.
It's not a medical emergency for the medical community, but people try to make it out to be one with nonsense like this. It's
Great
not.
points.
It's just not an emergency for them.
I totally agree with you, Dale. Well, on that, we're going to roll into our final story of the day today, you guys. I hope you guys enjoy this. I tried to find a, story you may get a laugh out of today. I know today is kind of a pretty somber day, but, I wanted to try to bring a little bit of humor to you guys today. Because just the title alone, I feel, is hysterically funny. Because the cannabis regulators, they asked for help managing the Michigan marijuana industry. They need help. They're waving their white flag, you guys. That's right. The Michigan Cannabis Regulatory Agency is asking the state legislature for help addressing black market grows and selling of marijuana. You guys. You can't make this shit up, Dale. As the agency's most recent public meeting, regulators said they need more authority to address illicit activity in the cannabis market, unreliable and fraudulent testing results that companies have submitted to the agency, and an increase of intoxicating but unregulated hemp-derived products, they say. But during the September 4th meeting in Lansing, the regulatory agency's executive director, Brian Hanna, showed a product he said was sold at a Michigan liquor store, but had 3 times as much THC as regulated marijuana product could have. Hanna said it's legal, though, through a loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill, which legalized hemp production for commercial and industrial use. And that exemption allows for unregulated hemp products to be sold without age or labeling restrictions, said Hanna. Well, that's your state issue you need to incorporate. That's not the federal government's issue, you guys. The market has changed dramatically since that Farm Bill took effect, and Cannabis Regulatory Agency spokesperson David Harns told Michigan Public Health in an interview. He highlighted the urgency of state action, and in a quote says, "It's been turned into a market where they can convert non-intoxicating cannabinoids into intoxicating ones and sell them under the guise of hemp," Hearn said. "And so the fact that they can get those at the gas station or you can get them in unregulated spaces is concerning." The Cannabis Regulatory Agency's 2024 budget included a $2.8 million to build and equip a cannabis reference lab. And at the agency's meeting last week, Hanna said the lab would ensure test accuracy, conduct investigations, and advance cannabis science. But there's a legal hurdle still, you guys. That's right. Because the agency still needs permission to possess marijuana at the lab. A bill introduced in May would allow that, but it hasn't advanced beyond a committee referral. And Harns said the bill should become law because marijuana businesses are currently under pressure to lab shop, meaning they submit products to multiple testing labs and only use the most favorable results. And he said a centralized reference lab would be better able to enforce the state's rules rules. The regulatory agency also advocated for streamlining operations between medical and adult use marijuana facilities. And although adult use marijuana accounts for more than 99% of sales, Harn said marijuana businesses must apply for a license to participate in both sides of the business. And in a quote, he says, "These things are the things that we have seen as the regulatory body, and we know that these are the things that will keep the industry healthy, keep the marijuana prices steady," said Harns, "so that businesses can follow the laws and the rules and not be tempted to go into the illicit side of things." Well. Michigan. All of a sudden, maybe you guys will be the next New York, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. They need help, Dale. They can't regulate themselves.
Well, I learned this in college 50-something years ago, that if enough people want to do something, you can't enforce a law against it. Okay. And that's what's happening in all over the country right now. You can pass any law, you can make it a death penalty case, to grow and move marijuana around, and you're not going to stop it. I mean, it's crazy. And they continue to want to try to ramp up and get the government to do things to stop it, rather than get the hell out of the way and let the market solve this. And the idea you're going to get a central lab in any state with any sort of a population in one lab to handle all this shit. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is something that's in Nate's bailiwick. They need testing standards. They need samples so that they can calibrate their machines. This is the shit that should have been happening a long time ago.
The term is they need to match methods, basically. So how one lab does it, another lab has to do that. And where people might be thinking, well, isn't that how it works right now?
No,
it's not. People are utilizing different equipment and different scientific methods. And it's nice when you see different methods arrive at the same result, but that's a version of double proving something. When you have two different methods that arrive in two different results, it's a no shit Sherlock moment. That's how would it not, right? So that's the issue. And what you have currently inside of the industry is that everybody calibrates to the same chemicals, but calibrating your stuff and having the same method that you utilize to arrive at an answer are two different things, of course. So that's, but you could sort of take that same concept and expand that into a few different ways, where you could suggest that certain aspects of government aren't aligned and types of issues in other ways too. It goes on and on. So yeah, this is a fun story. It really does point out the silliness of when you really kind of take that step back view and you look at the regulators stepping on their own dicks. Yeah. And now you're seeing the fallout. And I mean, on one hand, you get that validation in that I told you so kind of way, right? But on the other hand, like, we're in line behind this person who's stepping on their dick, and it could be years before we actually figure things out, amongst other reasons.
I think it's going to be longer than that, Nate. I think years is wishful thinking, bro. I mean, these guys don't even have a license to be able to have cannabis at their testing lab. I mean,
they're running into other problems, which is they said 3 times the amount. So do you want to break that down real quick? Because it's a quick explanation.
Go for it, Nate.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
Well, cannabis, there's 2 forms, 2 phases of it. There's what grows on the plant. It's called THCA.
Yeah.
And then there's what is in your smoke that gets you high. It's delta 9.
What's your body?
THC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. What your body actually consumes.
THC in your pipe. Yep. And then what comes out of the pipe is delta 9. Delta 9 gets you high. THCA doesn't. And so the whole explanation so far has been, hey, if we're selling THCA weed that doesn't get people high, then we're selling this non-intoxicating product. And whatever somebody does with it, if they get high off the fumes, that must be up to them. And so this 0.3% threshold that most cannabis has, that people suggest it's hemp, because when it has less than the threshold being, according 2 Farm Bill, 0.3% THC, which people say, takes as Delta 9. So that 0.3% gets exceeded upon by 3 times to 0.9% in this person's example. That's not weird because cannabis decarboxylates. That same thing that happens when you light it on fire or heat it. That same thing happens from just fucking time and a little bit of light and a little bit of heat. Like, it's going to happen anyway. If you find old weed, it's going to have decarboxylated into Delta 9 and even beyond into other chemicals that it breaks down into, like CBN, but put that aside for a second. There's no chance that you will put cannabis on the shelf starting as THCA, even at the time it was tested as being 0.3% or below. There's not a chance that it's not going to decarboxylate over time and turn into a different product. And when somebody says it's 3 times over the limit, if anybody's like, how did that happen? It's because the shit ages on the shelf. And because regulations are so fucking broken that it doesn't actually account for this before or after kind of scenario. If you guys see what the picture I'm painting, it's ridiculous. Like, it's beautifully ridiculous. Like, it's so hard. Other than that long setup I just gave everybody here, it's so difficult to try to explain the actual breadth of how fucked up everything is. So thank you for joining me on that.
Interesting. Well, this was a fun story. I mean, Michigan, that was cute. You guys waving the white flag. We definitely thoroughly did enjoy that. And before we wrap up, I did get an email, Dale, in regards with a story that you covered yesterday from Nate. He really appreciated everyone's perspective on that. And Nate, just so everyone knows, that's the Ganja Leaks. And Ganja Leaks is getting a lawsuit from TrueLeaf for the content, because of the content that they posted on online. And he sent me an email. He said thanks again for the coverage, but if I can clarify one thing. And so this is directly from him, and he just, you know what I'm saying. So I'm gonna read this, and so then that way he can have his final say on this one. He says hiding actively for months is a bit of a stretch. It's true that they went to my mom's house and my dad's office while I was putting things together to prepare for the case. However, when I first brought this case to my attorney months ago, he was able to skip trace my home address within 2 minutes, and they never even came to that address. Process servers all have skip tracing services, obviously, so the fact that they never came to that address is a bit incompetent on their part, he says. But, everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? Opinions are like assholes, Dale, and you know what I'm saying?
We all got them. We all got them. And I can tell you, I've had my investigators follow someone to the shitter in a gas station and catch them as they walked out.
Yep.
So it just depends on how diligent you are. And, I'd be interested to see both sides' evidence about I wasn't hiding versus I've seen what they had that he was actively hiding.
Yep.
And that's going to have to be before a court. And I didn't make any prediction there. I think it's a problem for him. I don't know Nate, so I'm not trying to say anything negative about him.
Yeah.
It's just, you create some problems from yourself when you try to hide from service. And
well, and at the same time too, just like you said, that is going to be interesting to see what TrueLeaf tries to say as far as their loss of revenue that they believe that they experienced because of the posts or whatnot. Which, you know what I mean? And especially the fact that they're talking about moldy weed when they are the only facility that has ever had a death inside of it because of mold that was in their facility.
Well, I'm not sure they're going to get beyond the pleading stage if they can't specifically state how that statement caused them what we call legally recognizable damages. Would hurt my reputation. Yeah, how did it hurt your reputation? Give us some links. There's got to be a proximate relationship between what was said and them losing money. And they didn't even really plead that. And that's the problem they have from the motion to dismiss standpoint. And I'd like to see this whole thing just be thrown out.
Yep, I would too.
I would too. I totally agree. Up. It was politics. I'd rather see people calling each other names than shooting each other.
I couldn't agree more, and that's a perfect way for us to end today. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai are somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.